Halo SNIzen, bagaimana kabarnya? Semoga sehat selalu ya. Senang sekali saya Reza Ditya Saputra dapat berjumpa dengan SNIzen dalam edisi spesial Ngobras SNI. Ngobrol bareng santai seputar SNI. Nah, SNIzen pasti udah nggak asing nih ya, dan udah pastinya tahu kalau di tahun 2022 ini Indonesia secara resmi memegang Presidensi Group of 20 atau G20 nih. Nah, sebagai pemegang presidensi G20, Indonesia akan menyelenggarakan konferensi tingkat tinggi atau KTT G20 dan sejumlah pertemuan internasional terkait lainnya. Nah, dalam Ngobras SNI edisi spesial ini, saya akan membahas salah satu pertemuan internasional yang akan diselenggarakan di Indonesia, tepatnya di Bali pada tanggal 20 Oktober nanti nih. Dalam rangkaian G20, Indonesia melalui Badan Standardisasi Nasional juga menjadi tuan rumah untuk G20 International Standards Summit 2022 yang akan diikuti oleh BSN bersama dengan negara-negara anggota G20 dan organisasi standar internasional serta regional. Sebelum melangkah lebih jauh nih tentang kegiatan International Standard Summit 2022, kayaknya saya mau sedikit kasih flashback tentang penyelenggaraan International Standard Summits di tahun-tahun sebelumnya. International Standard Summits itu pertama kali dilaksanakan pada tahun 2020. Pelaksanaan tahun 2020 itu dilaksanakan di Riyadh, Arab Saudi. Lalu International Standard Summits yang kedua itu dilaksanakan di tahun 2021 dan dilaksanakan di Milan, Italia. Nah, untuk G20 International Standard Summit 2022 ini akan dilaksanakan di Indonesia dan tentunya akan mempromosikan peran standar internasional dalam mendukung kebijakan menjadi tindakan nyata untuk mencapai tujuan pemulihan global. Dan netizen semua tahu tema yang akan diangkat dalam acara G20 International Standard Summit ini apa? Ya, pastinya tema yang diangkat akan sejalan dengan tema G20, yaitu arsitektur kesehatan global, transformasi digital, keamanan energi, dan juga ada tambahan nih ya, yaitu transaksi energi berkelanjutan serta SDGs dan net zero. Nah, International Standard Summit 2022 ini akan diselenggarakan di Bali pada tanggal 20 Oktober 2022. Pastikan netizen mengikuti terus ya informasinya di medsos BSN. Lalu, seperti apa sih pelaksanaan International Standard Summit nantinya? Lalu siapa saja yang terlibat dan pesan apa yang akan disampaikan dalam pelaksanaan International Standard Summit tahun ini? Mari langsung saja kita berbicara atau berbincang dengan narasumber saya pada hari ini. Oke, dan saya akan memulai diskusi kita dengan bahasa Inggris. So, like what I say to all of you guys for today's podcast, I will have three guests from International Organization for Standardization or ISO, and also we have from International Electrotechnical Commission or IC, and we also have from International Telecommunication Union or ITU. And today we will explore about the objectives of this year G20 International Standards Summit. Now, before we talk furthermore related to the summit, let me introduce our guest today. Okay, first we have Nathan Taylor from ISO. Hey Nathan, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you, and warm greetings from Geneva.
Okay, Nathan, can you give us brief explanation about what your job at ISO and then maybe your latest work with ISO?
My pleasure. I'm Nathan Taylor. I'm a program manager within the technical policy section of the Standards Development Directorate at ISO Central Secretariat. So my job is primarily consists of implementing projects that support the ISO 2030 strategy with the vision of making lives easier, safer, and better. So the key projects that I currently look after focus on smart and machine-readable standards, gender equality and gender responsive standards, and improving the strategic planning process within ISO technical committees. So I've been with ISO for 3 years. I joined initially as a technical program manager, so had some good exposure to frontline committee work, and yeah, it's a very exciting role to really be part of the ISO strategy implementation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now we also have Michael Mulan, or maybe I can call you Mike from IC. Hi, Mike.
Hi, and thank you very much for inviting me here today.
Yeah.
I'm involved with advocacy, and that's really explaining the benefits of IEC strategy and services and all our work to the broad range of stakeholders that support and rely on us.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And last but not least, we have Charlene Restivo from ITU. Hi, Charlene.
Hi, Reza. So nice to meet you.
You.
I'm very
nice
pleased to be here.
Okay, I will ask the same question to you. Maybe can you give us like a brief explanation about your latest job in ITU?
Sure. So I work at ITU as a project officer. ITU is the United Nations specialized agency for information and communication technologies. And I manage projects related to digital finance, financial inclusion, as well as I'm the advisor of the focus group on AI for environmental efficiency. And I'm also coordinating projects related to the World Standards Corporation, hence why I'm here today.
Okay, thank you. So like as I said before, today we will explore more information related to the International Standards Summit, especially about the objectives. So like as we know, this year's summit, we have 4 objectives. It's related to better health, and then related to acceleration, digital transformation, and then energy transition and security, and also how to reach net zero and the SDGs. So let's talk with the first objective, better health. Okay, I will give you like a little brief about this objective. So like as we know, one of the aims of this year's summit is related to global health. It is to demonstrate that international standards in conjunction with conformity assessment can significantly contribute to the majority of policy objectives related to health. And then related to that, I want to hear from each organization about what is their works related to the better health. Maybe I will start with IC. IC.
Yeah, I mean, the first point I really wanted to make is that the 3 organizations together, IEC, ISO, and ITU, really are like 3 sides of a triangle. Everything that we do complements and enhances work by our sister organizations, and that goes for the other 2 as well. So the world is getting 3 global standards organization that really is helping to. IEC work is about safety, security, and efficiency. And in the medical sphere, in the healthcare sphere, we're involved in several different ways, chiefly medical devices and active assisted living, which is growing in importance. Anytime you walk into a hospital or go to see your doctor, any device that you see there, from X-ray machines to scanners, ultrasound, and behind that, and those standards and the conformity assessment that make sure that they're implemented correctly are put together by our global network of experts. And what I'd like to stress, or one of the points I'd like to stress, is that these people are not all engineers. It's a broad range of different stakeholders. So there are clinicians in there, there are regulatory experts in there, and it's really bringing that knowledge from all the different sectors we serve, all our stakeholders together, to make sure that all the best practices are reflected in the standards that are produced. And as I mentioned, we for the healthcare sector, we do several different things. And one of the very important things we do, and if anyone's looking at the news, you'll see all these shocking stories about cyber attacks on hospitals and the healthcare sector. One of the very important things we do is we provide 2 different kinds of cyber security. Together with ISO, we developed those standards. 27001 is one. ISO IEC 27001 is very well known, that protect what we call personal identifiable information. That's that private data. We make sure that there's an information security management system around that to keep that data safe. And the other thing we do is, since technology is more and more a part of what hospitals do, we also have cybersecurity to protect cyber-physical systems. And very simply, that's where operational technology, those medical devices, are hooked up to computers so that people can be monitored and followed. And we have special standards that really focus on protecting that kind of equipment, that kind of critical equipment in hospitals. And the last thing I wanted to mention was active assisted living. And you remember at the beginning I said that with three sides of a triangle, and this is another area where we work very, very closely with ITU and ISO. And essentially, this is about supporting old people and people with disabilities, ensuring that they stay independent as long as possible. And we have standards and conformity assessment for things like medical wearables, sensors embedded in smart homes, robotics. And again, this is something that we don't do alone. We do it with our partners.
Okay, thank you, Mike. So maybe we can move on to Nathan. Yeah, maybe you can explain to us related to the better health, the first objective of this year's summit. What is like ISO bring related to the first objective of this summit?
Thanks, Reza. And I think first of all, would really like to just reflect Michael's comments in terms of how closely ISO works with ITU and IEC within the healthcare sector. Within ISO, we have probably a dozen technical committees that look at various aspects of the health sector. So I think particularly in partnership with IEC, we look at questions around assistive products and health informatics. But then also we really have a diversity of product fields such as surgical implants, transfusion equipment, sterilization of healthcare products, surgical equipment, medical devices. And I might just want to touch specifically on from more of a management aspect. Our technical committee, ISO TC 304 on healthcare organization management. This one's some of the work that they're doing is particularly looking at, they have an active work item around a quality framework for healthcare management. So this is really looking at, it's in development, but it's really looking at bringing an ISO 9001 perspective into the healthcare setting. And also the ISO TC 304, they had done some particularly interesting work during the COVID pandemic around establishing standards for drive-through infectious diseases screening stations, for example. So it's been, I think it's really reflective of the capacity of the international standardization systems to respond to, I would call them urgent, emergent, and ongoing market needs. Thank you.
Okay, now I will move to Charlene. Maybe you can add some more related to the first objective, better health from ITU side.
Sure. So let me offer 3 examples on the ITU's contributions to better health. So the first one would be ITU standards for medical grade digital health devices, such as connected blood pressure cuffs, glucose monitors, weight scales, and a wide range of activity trackers that are actually helping to prevent and manage chronic conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, heart disease. As a matter of fact, we recently published a new standard together with the World Health Organization, the WHO, which aims to ensure that telehealth services are accessible and meet the needs of all persons with disabilities. So this is really echoing as well the work that ISO and IEC are doing. So looking at the future, what is worth mentioning also is that ITU is working, for example, with WHO on developing a benchmarking framework for AI solutions to step up AI's contributions to health. So an open code proof of the concept is being developed right now, showcasing the type of metrics that could help developers and health regulators certify AI solutions, pretty much in the same way as what is done right now for medical equipment.
Okay, thank you so much. So if I can add a little bit more from our side, BSN. So during the pandemic, one of the contribution that we do is related to the health, and also, like, for example, we creating standards related to protective personal equipment that mostly people in the hospital wear during the pandemic. So that's one of things that we do in Indonesia. And also we talk about the mask that most of people use during the pandemic, but not the medical mask. And so BSN also doing that in Indonesia. And then, yeah, I think that's like several things that BSN do related to ISO and then IC and also ITU that we bring to Indonesia and then create it into our standards. And then I think we moving on to the second objective of this year's summit. Like, as we know, the second objective of this summit is related to the accelerating digital transformation. And this objective is to demonstrate that the hardware, software, and management protocols embedded in the international standards and verified through the global conformity assessment systems, and also provide nations at all levels of development with simpler, more consistent access to and participation in digital transformation. Okay, now we explore the connection between this objective to each organization. I think for this objectives, I will start with ITU first. Charlene, maybe you can explain to us.
Sure. So from our side, ITU standards are supporting digital transformation in many areas, from energy to transport, financial services, healthcare, and agriculture, just to cite a few. So international standards are really much the key to the shift towards smart cities and communities, for example, and they're really helping all sectors capitalize on the advances in artificial intelligence, for example. So at ITU, we also stimulate collaboration with frameworks like the AI for Good, the United for Smart Sustainable Cities, the Digital Currency Global Initiative, and the AI for Road Safety Initiative. So all those collaborative frameworks really aim to bring everyone together and to work towards our shared and common goal of ensuring that the advances in digital technologies really make a meaningful contribution to society.
Okay, thank you, Charlene. Well, I think I'm going to move next to Nathan from ISO. Maybe you can explain to us related to the acceleration digital transformation from ISO side.
Thanks, Reza. And from the ISO perspective, I think really our work is in digital transformation is quite broad and multi-sectoral. And I think just recognizing interconnectivity at an all-time high and the role of ISO standards in allowing for collection, interpretation, and exchange of growing volumes of information and data, as well as interoperability between machine sensors and software. I've certainly had the privilege of being one of the lead managers in the ISO IEC SMART program. And we recently completed some exciting work around related to collecting ideas for smart standards, machine interpretable, actionable standards from some of our leading technical committees, including those looking at industrial data exchange, those looking at energy efficiency of buildings, of shipping and trade logistics. So we've got some really exciting use cases that we are already looking at in terms of our movement towards machine-readable standards really across all sectors. I might just want to also highlight some of our particular cooperations with the IEC in some emergent technological areas such as artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, big data, data analytics, and the smart cities example that was cited by my ITU colleague. So yeah, I think this is really, in terms of our 2030 strategy, machine readable standards, smart standards are really very much at the center, and I think particularly the multi-year program that is supporting this benefits from a close collaboration with IEC and really access to the full ISO and IEC technical community. So yeah, it's an exciting time for us. Thank you.
Okay, now I think we will move on to the IEC side from Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the first point I really want to make is that standards are not developed in a vacuum. It's not about focusing on the technology and forgetting everything else in the world around us. We really are passionate about the idea that digital transformation, it really should be about leveraging technology to build a better future for everyone. And we believe that we're providing a sort of toolkit, if you like, of standards and conformity assessment to make that possible. In terms of what we do, many things. Firstly, we have standards for hardware and IT infrastructure. All of this is based is consensus based and reflecting best practices in the world, and those are standards for things like semiconductors, fiber optic cables, really at the heart of the IT infrastructure, displays, printed electronics, and the list goes on. As Nathan said, we're also sort of present across a variety of different sectors, and one of the areas I'd like to highlight is smart manufacturing. Some people call it Industry 4.0. We have our standards support things like sensors, industrial process measurement, control and automation, communication tech, and architecture. And then again, since safety and security are really at the heart of everything that we do, we're also very active in cybersecurity for the cyber physical systems that we find in critical infrastructure. For example, our standards like 62443 ensure that utilities and manufacturing plants, transport systems are safe and protected. Together with ISO, as Nathan mentioned, we're involved with in areas like AI, Internet of Things, data management, cloud and edge computing, even multimedia. I mean, it's and this brings all three of us together again. Standards like JPEG and MPEG that everyone knows. This is really all three organizations coming together, and we've even won Emmys for it. So we're very proud of that, and of course, smart cities. We focus. I mentioned standards are not developed in a vacuum, and we focus on the concerns of society in two ways, really. We have the standards that are produced either IEC or in our joint technical committee with ISO, and not all focused purely on technology. We have standards for trustworthiness. We have standards aimed at, or other publications aimed at tackling issues like bias in machine learning. And we even provide guidance around ethical issues too. A very important technical report that came out a couple of months ago focuses on ethics in AI, for example. And secondly, we provide a platform, a sort of institutional framework for bringing a very broad range of stakeholders together to tackle societal challenges. And an example of that was a conference we held together with the Swiss government in Geneva earlier this year, really to bring stakeholders in artificial intelligence together to kind of map out a future for cooperation and collaboration, and as far as possible to try to avoid duplicating efforts to share best practices and ideas, and really make sure that technology advances not only as quickly as possible, but also for the benefits of people everywhere.
Okay, so if I can add from our side, BSN in Indonesia, during this pandemic, I think one standards that most people in Indonesia aware is related to the information security and management system. There was one standards that make us in Indonesia feels that, oh, this one is we need to learn, and then we need to apply in our daily life, because during the pandemics, like everyone's just stuck at their homes, and then they're doing mostly things in online, and then people start to realize about this standard. If I can conclude, the first two objectives of this year's summit that we discussed today are actually make us connected in every aspect, especially us in BSN. But I must say sorry, because we need to stop our discussion today, because we will continue the other two objectives on the next episode. Thank you so much for your time, and see you guys on the next episode. Baik, SNIzen, itu dia tadi obrolan saya bersama dengan perwakilan dari IC, ISO, dan juga ITU seputar kontribusi International Standards terhadap fokus isu utama G20 dan juga G20 International Standards Summit tahun 2022. Nah, gimana nih SNIzen? Pastinya kalian makin penasaran dong ya dengan pelaksanaan G20 International Standards Summit pada tahun ini. Nah, biar kalian gak ketinggalan semua informasi terkait pelaksanaan summit di tahun ini, jangan lupa untuk follow semua media sosial BSN di @bsn_SNI, dan juga follow media sosial G20 International Standards Summit 2022 di @standardsummit. Sekian ngobrol-ngobrol kita hari ini, saya Reza Aditya pamit undur diri, salam bangga memakai SNI.